I still remember the way he looked at me when I walked into the kitchen that morning. Calm, confident, like a man who had everything under control. He had no idea what I was about to say would flip his world upside down. I pulled the chair, sat across from him, and said, "I quit my job." His spoon froze midway. A twitch in his brow. And then he did something that made my heart sink. He smiled. Not a happy smile, a smug one. That's when I knew. All the late nights I worked. The hours I spent pushing myself to the edge. It was never about us. It was about convenience for him. So I made a plan. A test. I needed to know if my husband truly loved me, or simply loved what I provided. And the day I quit my job was just the beginning. Before I quit my job, before I decided to test my husband, we used to be that couple everyone admired. At least on the surface. We had the picture-perfect apartment. 2 luxury cars in the garage. The kind of smiles that made Instagram followers jealous. But inside that picture frame was a woman who hadn't slept more than 5 hours a night in years, and a man who'd mastered the art of emotional absence. It didn't start that way. When I met Ryan, he was sweet. Thoughtful. We'd talk until sunrise about dreams and building an empire together. I believed him when he said, "You and me against the world." So I pushed myself. I took the corporate path, climbed ladders, worked 14-hour days. I told myself I was doing it for us, but it slowly became me, alone, hustling to keep us afloat. Meanwhile, Ryan's job? Let's just say, it was flexible. He called himself an entrepreneur. Always working on something big. But somehow, I was the one paying the rent, and his coffee habits. At first, I defended him. He's trying. He just needs time. But slowly, my friends started asking questions. Why are you always tired? Doesn't Ryan ever pitch in? I brushed them off. I wasn't ready to admit what I was beginning to feel. Used. And then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Thursday. I came home early from a client meeting that got canceled. The apartment was quiet. No music, no typing, no phone calls, just the low hum of the AC. I walked into the living room and found Ryan, lying on the couch, controller in hand, gaming. Laughing with his friends online. He looked up at me, blinked once, and said, "Oh, you're home early. Can you grab me a drink?" No, how was your day? No curiosity about why I was back by 3 p.m. Just a demand. Like I was the maid. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt resentment. Not just disappointment, resentment. That's when the thought first crept in. What would happen if I stopped providing? Would he still love me? Or would the illusion fall apart? I didn't act right away. I watched. Observed. Tested little things. I stopped buying groceries. He didn't notice, just ordered food. I skipped laundry day. He wore the same hoodie 4 times. I stopped asking about his day, he never asked about mine. And that's when I knew. He wasn't in love with me, He was in love with the version of me that made his life easier. So I planned the biggest test of all. I quit my job. And his reaction, that smug smile over breakfast, that was the final confirmation I needed. The day I quit my job, Ryan didn't blink. No concern. No surprise. Just that crooked little smirk, the kind that says, "Finally, you're doing something reasonable for once." He leaned over the breakfast counter, sipping his coffee, and said, "Well, now we can finally travel more. And hey, maybe you'll have time to cook again." Cook again. Like I hadn't been paying for the food he ate. Like the only value I brought was in meals and massages. My hands trembled on the coffee mug. I bit my tongue so hard, I tasted blood. But I smiled. Nodded. Said, "Sure, babe. More time to focus on us." What he didn't know, what he couldn't even see, was that I was watching his every move now. This wasn't surrender. This was war. The first week, I told him I'd be resting. I slept in. Took walks. Journaled. I made it seem like I was easing into a soft life. He loved it. Started calling me his little housewife. Said it like a compliment. He even bragged to his friends. Yeah, I told her that job was killing her vibe. Look at her now, radiant. Radiant? I wasn't radiant. I was fuming and planning. I started keeping a log. Every day, I wrote down what he did while I rested. Spoiler, not much. He'd play games, scroll TikTok, nap, order food, repeat. No projects. No clients. And yet, every evening, he'd act exhausted. Talk about how draining his day was. I tested him again. I told him I was feeling unfulfilled. That maybe I should start a side business. Something light, creative. His reply? You just quit. Can't you be content for once? Women are always chasing something. Women. Not me. Like I was already grouped in the nagging wife category for wanting more than just folding laundry and listening to his fake hustle stories. 2 weeks in, things got colder. Not from me, from him. He stopped checking in. Barely touched me. But I still kissed his cheek good morning. Still made him coffee. Still pretended. Because I wasn't just watching him. I was documenting the cracks. Then came the final straw. I overheard him talking to his sister on the phone. He was laughing. Really laughing, the belly kind. I heard her ask, "How's married life now that she's unemployed?" And his response? "Honestly, it's perfect. I feel like the man again. She finally knows her place. Knows her place." I sat there in the hallway, shaking. Not from sadness. Not from heartbreak. From clarity. He never wanted a partner. He wanted a prop. A smiling, income-generating, ego-stroking houseplant. That night, I wrote everything down. Every insult. Every manipulation. Every lie masked as encouragement. And I made a plan. The next morning, I told him I'd be gone for the weekend. Girls' trip, I said. Just a break. He barely looked up from his phone. Have fun, he mumbled. Don't forget to pick up oat milk on your way back. But I wasn't going away for a weekend. I was going to set everything in motion. I met with my mentor, the same woman who helped me land my last executive role. I told her everything. She leaned back, looked me in the eye, and said, "You're not the first woman I've seen lose herself in love. But you might be the first to turn it into a comeback story." She offered me a position. Higher pay. More flexibility. Fully remote. I accepted. And that's not all. I took the screenshots. The chat logs. The credit card statements with my name and his Starbucks orders. I compiled a file titled Ryan's Reality. I sent it to myself. And waited. Because the test wasn't over yet. He still had one more chance to prove me wrong. One more shot at redemption. But what he did next sealed everything. It was a Thursday morning, quiet, normal, forgettable, the kind of day you'd never expect to become the one you remember forever. I was sitting on the patio, sipping coffee, going through emails from my new job, which, of course, Ryan knew nothing about. He walked out, shirtless, stretching like a king surveying his kingdom. "Any plans today, babe?" he asked. I smiled and said, "Actually, I've been thinking about getting back into consulting. Just part-time. Remote." He stopped mid-stretch, then scoffed. "Why would you do that? Didn't we agree you'd focus on the house, on us?" I said, carefully, "I miss being fulfilled. I'm more than just your wife." He rolled his eyes. "Here we go again. Every time things get calm, you start creating chaos." Calm? This man thought his emotional neglect, his subtle digs, his absolute disregard for who I am, that was calm. I stood up slowly, holding his gaze. "I'm serious, Ryan. I already accepted a position." That's when it happened. He exploded. "You what? Without even talking to me? Who the hell do you think you are?" And then, the fatal mistake. He slammed his hand against the patio table, not near me, but close enough to make me flinch. That was it. The look in his eyes, entitlement, rage, disbelief, as if I was his possession stepping out of line. I picked up my phone, opened the file titled Ryan's Reality, and pressed send. "To my attorney," I said. He blinked. "What attorney?" "For the divorce," I replied softly. He started laughing, a short, sharp sound. "You're bluffing. You're too weak to leave." I stepped forward, steady. "No, Ryan. I was too in love to see you clearly. Not anymore." His face changed. The smirk dropped. The panic started to show. I didn't mean it like that. But I was already walking back inside. I'd seen enough. He failed the final test. They say some truths are better left buried, but what if that truth has already been controlling your entire life? After my last encounter with my mother, if I could still call her that, I found myself staring at the dusty old box tucked away in the attic. I hadn't noticed it before. It looked untouched for years. My gut twisted. My heart pounded. I pulled it down slowly. The lock was already broken. Inside were letters. Old, yellowed envelopes, each addressed to me. But not from my mother. From a woman named Clara. I opened the first one. To my little girl. I'm sorry I had to leave you behind. They told me I wasn't fit to be your mother. They took you away. I fought. But I lost. And ever since that day, I've been trying to reach you. Clara was my real mother. Tears blurred my vision. Dozens of letters followed, all unsent. Some torn, some rewritten. My adoptive parents, the people I had defended, even when it hurt, had hidden these from me all my life. I had lived a lie. The woman who claimed to love me had stolen me. She'd erased my past. I wasn't just manipulated. I was stolen. A scream got caught in my throat. I wasn't just a daughter, I was a victim of a stolen identity. And they smiled in my face every birthday, every Christmas, while the real woman who brought me into this world wrote letters in silence, praying I'd remember her face someday. And that was the moment everything changed. I wasn't the same person anymore, not broken, but rebuilt. Stronger. Wiser. Quieter. Sometimes, it takes betrayal to reveal the truth, and it takes heartbreak to ignite transformation. I disappeared from their lives, not in bitterness, but in peace. Because when you stop waiting for closure, you become your own. So tell me, have you ever been betrayed so deeply, you had to vanish to survive? Let me know your story in the comments. And if this touched you, don't forget to subscribe, because here at Sod Stories, we turn pain into power, one story at a time.